welcome to today's editorials broadcast from Canada. My name is Sandra Asante. Today we are looking at the mass arbitrary arrest targets Tigrayans. That's what United Nations Rights Office is saying. And also 14 people has been shot dead in Sudan protest. So don't go anywhere. I'll be back after the break. Yeah, welcome back from the break. We will start with the mass arbitrary and the alert from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. OHCHR comes as the World Food Programme WFP describes the situation, the aid situation I'm talking of, for vulnerable people in Tigray as hand to mouth. Citing report, OHCHR said at least 1,000 individuals are believed to have been detained by police officers in the last 7 days on suspicion of being linked to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. Many of those detained have not been informed of the reasons for their detention, nor have been brought before a court of law or other tribunal to review the reasons for their detention and have not been formally charged, said OHCHR spokesperson Liz Thurcell. So we are also concerned that some report of ill treatment in detention, she noted, added that the actual number of detainees may be much higher. Thanks to the excessively wide provisions of the state of emergency declared on 2nd November to arrest, search and detain people, OHCHR said that in addition to the capital, arrests have been reported in Gondar, Bahardar and other locations. Ms. Thurcell said that 10 local staff in Addis Ababa were still being held, along with 34 contracted drivers. She explained that the sweeping powers of the current state of emergency, which was prompted by fighting that began a year ago in the northern Tigray region, risk compounding the already very serious human rights and humanitarian situations. The UN Rights Office spokesperson explained that its provisions are extremely broad, with vague prohibitions going as far as encompassing indirect moral support for what the government has labeled and in the claims being terrorism. Now let's look at the surviving mode of all this. So in an update on the aid relief situation in the conflict-affected North region, WFP said that although recent weeks have seen some improvement in the movement of humanitarian cargoes in Tigray, but it was still not enough to meet the need of 5.2 million people in the region. Only 1,114 truckloads of supplies have entered Tigray since mid-July, WFP said, adding that there are currently over 14,000 tons of food in Mekelle, which is enough to sustain around 825,000 people for 45 days. To date, the UN agency has finalized its second round of food distribution in Tigray, reaching close to 2.6 million people. Also, fuel stocks have all run out for all humanitarian operations inside Tigray. However, there are only 22,000 liters of fuel left inside Mekelle, 10,000 of which are reserved for the emergency relocation of staff and assets. WFP said that it is continuing to negotiate with federal authorities to allow 16 fuel tankers held in eastern neighboring Afar Samara to be permitted into Tigray. All parties have a role to ensure a free flow of aid into northern Ethiopia that will reduce the forestall, further severe hunger or loss of life, the UN Food Agency said. Now, away from Ethiopia, let's get some story in Sudan concerning the Sudan protest, and doctors in Sudan says 14 people have been shot dead by security forces as thousands took to the street to protest against the recent military takeover. Activists has called for mass demonstrations to mark the day when a civilian was supposed to assume the leadership of the governing sovereign council. The man who led last month's coup, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, dismissed the government, arrested dozens of his politicians, and named himself the head of a new sovereign council. There is growing evidence of just how brutal the Sudanese security forces have been. Doctors in the capital, Khartoum, said tear gas have been fired inside hospital buildings and soldiers have prevented some of the wounded from being treated. Many arrests have taken place in neighborhoods where the electricity had been switched off. General Burhan and his colleagues who seized power are determined to stop anti-military protests from gaining any momentum. They are also underdoing much of the progress that have been achieved after Omar al-Bashir was toppled. His allies are taking back some power and returning the country to the kind of dictatorship that the vast majority of Sudanese hoped had been dismantled forever. Today, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has condemned the violence against pro-democracy protesters in Sudan and reiterated a call for the ousted Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok to be reinstated. On Wednesday, 15th of November, people were shot dead and dozens seriously wounded when security forces opened fire on large crowds demonstrating against last month's coup. In a BBC interview, Mr. Blinken, who is on his first trip to Africa since taking office, called for political detainees to be released and said military leaders needed to listen to the voices of the streets of Sudan. Funerals for the victims are due to be held in the next few hours. This is where I end today's editorials. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Sandra Asante. You should have a spectacular day.